Hello there, you the soul who's listening from a very quiet place deep inside. Maybe you didn't plan to open this video today, maybe you stopped, just because a title touched something in you, something you can't yet name. But believe this, nothing is ever random. The universe didn't bring you here to hear a prophecy, it brought you here to help you remember something your soul has known for a long, long time. That something inside you is beginning to crack, gently, like a hairline fracture on the surface of calm waters. But you feel it, you know, something is ending, and in that same moment, a new path quietly begins to form, the path of someone who's about to leave, not because they're giving up, but because it's finally time to come home to themselves. And if you're still trying to explain that feeling away, then let us begin at the place where all real change begins, when the soul starts knocking, and you can no longer pretend. You don't hear it anymore. Have you ever heard a soft knocking deep inside your heart? Not the noise of rushed decisions, not the outside voices or the bullet point plans on a piece of paper, but a quiet knock, so quiet you almost miss it, a sound that comes from within, from the stillest, deepest part of you. This knock doesn't speak much. It simply repeats one thing like a gentle whisper that's somehow crystal clear. It's time, Aries. You are the one who moves, who ignites, who begins. But there are moments when you don't run forward. You turn and you leave, not because you're weak, but because your soul has reached a silent edge it can no longer bear. There are mornings you wake up and something feels off. Everything looks fine, but nothing feels right. You still smile, still show up, still chase like you always have. But inside, there's a tiny crack, a fracture no one sees except you. That's when the soul begins to knock. No noise, no panic, just a quiet knowing that you no longer belong where you are. Maybe it's the job you once loved, the relationship that once gave you meaning, or maybe it's just who you used to be that no longer fits who you're becoming. And you know it, but you're afraid to let go, afraid to hurt someone, afraid you might be wrong. So you stay silent, brush it off. You tell yourself it's just a passing wave of exhaustion, that tomorrow will be different, that maybe, just maybe, you just need to push through one more time. But tomorrow doesn't feel different, and the knocking in your chest is still there, quiet, patient, like a friend who refuses to leave even when you ignore them. As someone who's spent years in meditation, I've come to believe that every deep change in life doesn't begin in the mind. It begins in a silent knowing, a feeling the mind can't explain but the heart understands. And the closer you live to your soul, the more sensitive you become to that knock. You can't pretend anymore, and that's the first sign, not to panic but to listen, because you are not breaking down, you're breaking free from a version of yourself you've outgrown. A shell too tight, a story that's run its course. And you'll notice, the world outside still looks the same, but inside, you start to feel breathless. You ask yourself, am I wrong for wanting to leave? Am I ungrateful for no longer feeling joy in what once lit me up? Is it too late to start over? But Aries, your heart isn't asking why. Your heart is saying, go. Even if it's just one small step, go. Walk away from what once made you proud, but now drains you. Walk away from the places you used to call home, no longer feel safe to breathe. Walk away from the roles you played so well, but that now only pull you further from yourself. When your soul begins to knock, you can't go back to being who you were, no matter how hard you try, no matter how long you smile and tell yourself to stay patient. A part of you has already changed, and that part will keep calling you to come home, but not to a place, to yourself, the original you, the free you, the true Aries. Beneath all the layers, you don't need anyone's approval, you don't need to explain. Your soul already knows, and when your intuition speaks, don't silence it. If something inside you is speaking right now, softly but clearly enough to make you pause, listen. Not all goodbyes need tears, some just need a truth, finally accepted. The truth that you are ready to leave. And if you've ever been in this moment, share it with someone who may need your light. Type it in the comments. My soul knew before my mind did. Because maybe, just maybe, your words will guide a lost soul home. No matter how hard this is, no matter how unclear the answers still feel, there's one thing I need you to remember. When your inner pull becomes stronger than the outer comfort, it's no longer a decision. It's a calling that doesn't lead you into pain, but through it toward your freedom. And right now, a new chapter is unfolding, one where you'll face your own pain, not as punishment, but as something sacred, part of your becoming. Leaving is never easy, especially when you're the first. The first to stand up at a warm dinner table and quietly say, "I'm not hungry anymore." The first to pack your bags in silence while everyone else is still fast asleep, inside the house of old habits. The first to say no to a role that everyone else calls perfect. The first is often misunderstood, and the most painful part is, sometimes you even misunderstand yourself. You ask, "Am I being selfish?" You blame yourself, "Why can't I just try a little harder?" You hesitate, "Am I breaking something I was supposed to protect?" Aries, I want you to know those questions are not weakness. They are proof that you're still feeling, that you're not walking away carelessly. You're walking away with a bleeding heart, because deep down you know, if you don't leave, something inside you will slowly die. In my path as a healer, I've sat with many souls, standing at the edge of a goodbye, and here's one thing I've learned: the truth never hurts you. It's the avoidance of truth that prolongs your pain. Maybe you've spent years building something, a job that took your youth, a relationship you once believed was forever, a life that others look at and admire, but only you know how exhausted you've become, just trying to keep it all looking okay. Only you know how heavy it feels each morning to keep playing a role you no longer recognize. And when you start asking, "Am I living in alignment with my truth?" that's not a crisis, that's awakening. Do you know what hurts the most? It's not the judgment from others. It's the look in a loved one's eyes. When you tell them you're ready to change, that look, it's not angry, it's not critical, it's disappointed. And sometimes, that disappointment is what makes you shrink. But hear me, growth doesn't always get applause. Most of the time, it's witnessed in silence, in the middle of long, sleepless nights. When you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, asking yourself, "Do I have the courage to be real?" Aries, I know you're strong. You're the one who dares to run when no one else even moves, but this time, your strength isn't in charging ahead, it's in the decision to step back. A sacred retreat from what once mattered deeply but no longer fits who you are becoming. And real courage is letting go while you still love, leaving not because you hate it but because you no longer belong there. It's choosing early loneliness so that later you can find peace. Not everyone will understand your decision, and honestly they don't need to, because this journey is yours, not theirs, not society's, not the expectations you once tried so hard to fit into. You have the right to say no, to choose again, to save yourself. If you are quietly walking away from something, carrying a pain no one can see, please know you are not alone. Right here in this space, I see you, and if you're open to it, leave a small piece of your soul in the comments. Right. I had to walk away from. You don't have to explain, just name it, because when you name it, you bring it into the light, and the light always knows how to heal. Right now, you may not see what's ahead. Maybe all you feel is loss, doubt, and disconnection, but there's one gentle truth. I've learned from years of walking people through transitions. The universe never takes something from you without preparing something better in return. You don't need to know what that better is just yet. You just need to trust this pain is not meaningless. It's the pain of rebirth. An old fire is fading, so a brighter light can rise, a light that comes from your truest self. And now, if you're shaking, if you're hesitating, let your heart rest in these words. Not every departure is a loss. Sometimes, it's the universe preparing you for a miracle you haven't even imagined yet. After you leave, there will be an empty space, a quiet room, a seat missing at the table, a habit that no longer repeats. At first, it feels strange, like you're living in a chapter that hasn't been written yet. Nothing has been replaced. Nothing new has arrived. Only silence remains. A silence that lingers and presses softly on your chest. Aries, for someone like you who's always in motion, this space can feel unbearable, like you're suspended in midair. No longer belonging to where you were, but not yet anchored in what's to come. But I want you to hear this. That space is not a loss. It's your soul making room. Making room for something deeper, truer, and more aligned with who you're becoming. In meditation, I was once taught this. True wholeness doesn't come from rushing to fill the void. It comes from having the courage to sit with it. We live in a world that teaches us to have, to hold, to fill, to have a clear job title, to hold on to relationships, to always keep something or someone around, so we don't feel alone, to have answers for every question. But the soul doesn't work that way. The soul isn't in a rush. The soul doesn't need proof. The soul needs space to bloom, and for a new flower to grow, sometimes the old soil needs to rest. No planting, no plowing, just breathing. Have you ever let the soil rest, Aries? I'm talking about the soil in your heart. Imagine this: if your life were a garden, then the emptiness after a breakup, a departure, is just the earth resting. It may look barren, but deep beneath the surface, life is preparing for a miracle. Maybe you haven't seen anything better appear yet. No new person has walked in. No new project has excited you. No clear vision of the future has shown up. But if you're honest with yourself, Aries, deep down, don't you feel it? Don't you know you deserve more than this? And I don't mean more the way the world defines it. I mean more peace, more freedom, more alignment. And that doesn't come from holding on. It comes from letting go at the right time. I've met people who spent their whole lives holding on to what no longer belonged to them because they were afraid of the empty space. And what hurt them most wasn't the thing they held on to, but the parts of themselves they lost along the way. When you let go, you're not just letting go of a person, a job, or a place. You're clearing the path for yourself to come home. Empty space is sacred ground for the soul to grow, and you won't fill it with just anything. You'll be filled with what's truly meant for you. Maybe it's a new journey, a connection that sees you for who you are, a role that feels more like home than performance, or simply a quiet peace in your chest you forgot you could feel. So Aries, what are you empty of right now? Write it down, just one line, no need to explain, just name it, because what's named can begin to heal. Some nights you'll feel unsteady. You'll ask yourself, did I go the wrong way? You'll feel the chill of silence and wonder if you've made a mistake. But in all that quiet, something begins to grow, not fast, not loud, like a seed pushing gently through the soil long before you even know it's there. And one day you'll look back and realize that empty space became the most sacred part of your story. The hardest part isn't letting go, it's sitting with the silence after you've let go. For someone like you, Aries, who loves having control, who thrives with a plan, this is the real challenge. Because now there's no roadmap, no guarantee, no clear direction, only trust, and believe it or not. That's where faith begins, right where nothing feels certain. Faith steps in as your very first companion. There are some journeys you can't pack for, no suitcase, no train ticket, no map, no step-by-step instructions, no one to go ahead and show the way, just a quiet pull in your chest, and a fog in front of you that makes you ask, am I even heading the right direction? Aries, I know, you're not afraid of challenges. You're not afraid to lead, but more than anything, you fear losing control. You're a doer, a planner, a pathfinder. You're used to seeing the destination, estimating the time, calculating the risk. You want to know where you're going, why you're going, and what will happen if it all falls apart. But this time, the universe doesn't give you a map, it gives you a torch. Not bright enough to light the whole road, just enough to show you the next step. In the deepest journeys of my life, I never knew where I'd end up. All I knew was one thing: I couldn't stay where I was anymore, so I walked. Even with the fog, even with shaking hands, even with the fear that I might ruin everything I've spent years building. You might be in the middle of a sleepless night right now, tossing and turning in bed, your heart pounding as you think about what you're about to do. You wonder, am I making a mistake? Will I lose the good things I've built? Will people think I'm ungrateful? All of those questions are real, and that fear, it's not wrong, but hear me, trust isn't blind. Trust is a deep kind of courage, the kind that lets you take a step, even when there's no proof you'll be okay. You don't need the whole picture. You just need to know. Your heart can't pretend anymore. That's why you're leaving. And if you're waiting for certainty before you begin again, I'll be honest with you. It's not coming, because certainty doesn't show up before the leap. It arrives after. Aries, you don't need to see the whole road. You just need to remember, the light is still ahead. And more importantly, that light is also inside of you, who was the one who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, who saw your light when all you saw was darkness. Write their name in the comments, and if no one comes to mind, then write a thank you to yourself because you didn't give up. You're still here, still listening, still searching for truth. Even when your chest is full of doubt, I know, letting go of control feels like a small kind of death. Like sitting in a boat with no oars, floating down a river, not knowing where it ends, just trusting that the water won't drown you but carry you to something more right. Maybe right now you're still holding on to something, a routine, a person, a structure, but what if you opened your hands a little, just a little? What if you let life move you without resisting it? Sometimes the only thing standing between you and true peace is the belief that you must stay in control to feel safe. But Aries, you don't need to control everything. You just need to be fully present, right here in this moment, and brave enough to take one more step, and then another, because sometimes resurrection doesn't begin with a victory, it begins the moment you dare to believe not every ending is a loss. Some endings are births, a quiet kind of miracle. You're not just walking away from something. You're shedding a skin that no longer fits. An old version of you is falling away like the last leaf of autumn, and in that falling, something sacred is taking place. You're not losing yourself, you're being restructured. I've been through many moments of breaking in my life. I call them little deaths. The death of a dream, the death of a relationship, the death of an illusion I had about who I was. But through every breaking, one thing always stayed. Like a gentle breath behind the fog, God never took his eyes off me. He didn't rescue me the way I wanted. He didn't pull me out of the dark right away. But he was there, in the dark. In the moments I was on my knees, sobbing, he waited for me to look up. And when I finally did, I realized I wasn't abandoned. I was being reborn. Dear Aries, maybe you're going through a little death right now. No one sees it. No one's patting your back. You're still showing up, still smiling, still holding it together. But inside you, something is ending. Maybe it's the passion you once had for a job that lit you up. Maybe it's the connection with people you once called everything. Or maybe it's just an old image of you that you've carried for far too long. If you feel like you no longer fit with your old friends, your old work, your old dreams, that's not your fault. That's the sign. You're growing. You don't have to apologize for that. You just need to give yourself permission to change. Rebirth doesn't mean destroying everything. It means rising above the shell that has served its purpose. Just like the scripture says, the old is gone, the new is here. 2 Corinthians 5:17, Aries. Rebirth requires that you let go of what's familiar, so your hands are free to receive the new gift from God. You don't have to know what that gift is. You just have to trust. It's on its way. I want to invite you to pause for a moment. Take a deep breath, place your hand on your heart, and whisper, I give myself permission to grow out of what no longer fits. If you'd like, write it down, not for others to read, but for your own soul to hear it. You don't need to go back to being the version of you that made everyone else comfortable. You are becoming who God intended you to be. From the moment you were created, rebirth isn't always loud and glorious at the start. It arrives in silence, like a seed breaking through the soil, before anyone sees it bloom, like a soul coming back to life. Not with thunder, but through a quiet agreement with the divine. You said yes to letting the old fall away. You said yes to change. Now it's time for the light to shine through, and in that light, some people won't stay, not because they're bad, but because old energy can't continue with new life. But don't be afraid, because in that same light, the ones meant for you will appear. And when you meet them, you won't need many words, because souls always recognize each other. In silence, after every rebirth, there's always a shift, not just within your mind, but in the way the world begins to respond to you. And that's something most people aren't prepared for. The change in relationships. Someone who used to feel so close now suddenly feels distant. Someone who used to always be there now doesn't even let you finish a sentence. Old connections begin to fade, not out of anger, but simply because you're no longer on the same frequency. Aries, when you change, your energy changes. And when your energy shifts, you start to see clearly what you used to ignore. Not everyone is meant to walk the rest of this journey with you. I know this is hard. You poured your heart into that friendship. You gave everything to stay in that relationship. You trusted someone so much. You didn't even notice how drained you were becoming. You thought, maybe I just need to try harder. You blamed yourself, took on the weight, tried to keep the balance, even after they had already let go. But some things can't be held together through sacrifice. Not everyone can go with you into the next chapter. And that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means their role in your story is complete. When I began my healing journey, I lost almost everyone I used to know. No one did anything wrong. It's just I changed. And in that new layer of energy, I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't say things I no longer believed. Couldn't stay in places that made me shrink just to fit in. Couldn't keep walking beside those who no longer saw who I truly was. And then in the silence, God started sending new people. They didn't show up loudly. They came like a soft breeze on a scorching afternoon. They didn't ask me what I had survived. They just sat beside me, and in their eyes I heard them say, "I understand, you don't need to explain." Aries, if you're in that in-between space where the old ones are leaving, but the new ones haven't arrived yet, stay strong. Don't cling to those who no longer want to understand you. Don't explain yourself to people who only listen to argue. And please, don't trade your inner peace for the comfort of something familiar. One of the most sacred acts of love is releasing someone who no longer belongs on your path. You don't need to end it with bitterness. Just let go gently and whisper in your heart, "Thank you for walking with me this far. From here, I'll continue on, alone or with someone new." Write it down if you're ready. I release those who cannot meet me where I'm going. And if you're starting to feel a little more space inside you, a little more calm, a little more light, then write one more line, a soul declaration. I'm ready to meet who aligns with my soul. You are not alone, you're just being cleared, so those who can truly see you can find their way in. No long introductions needed, no explanations, because when soul meets soul, connection begins in deep silence. You may still miss them, the memories, the old laughter, the safety of relationships that once felt like roots, but deep down, you know this, those roots no longer nourish the tree you've become. You need new soil, a new light, a different breath, not because you demand more, but because you've grown deeper, wider, more aligned than ever with who you truly are. And when you're still enough to let go, brave enough to wait, strong enough to walk through the quiet, the door will open. Not because you forced it, but because the key was forged from your tears, your silence, and your faith. A brand new chapter is waiting. Aries, one lit with light, with freedom, and the bold return of a soul that has survived its own long winter at some point. You just can't keep living in the gray zone anymore, not because someone forces you, not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because there's been a quiet fire inside you for far too long, and that fire no longer wants to be hidden. It doesn't want to be controlled, dimmed, or downsized. It wants to rise boldly, brightly, unapologetically. Aries, you've been silent long enough. You've worn the mask long enough. You've played the part stable, strong, agreeable for long enough. And I don't believe it's a coincidence you're hearing these words right now. You might not say it out loud, but deep inside there's a voice, clear, unmistakable. It says, "It's time to come out." This is no longer the season of hiding. This is not a pause between chapters. This is your moment to step forward, not just into a new life, but into a new version of yourself, fully seen, fully alive. Maybe you're used to being quiet. You've learned how not to upset anyone. You've dimmed your light so others wouldn't feel overshadowed. You've folded your wings, softly tiptoed through the world, even though inside you is a storm of light that's never been fully released. You're not weak. You were just afraid of being judged, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being too much, too sensitive, too independent, or just too different. But here's the truth. You've always been different, and that was never a mistake. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to burn bright, I believe. Every soul has a sacred moment when something within says clearly, "I'm not hiding anymore." I call it the moment of rising, not in secret, but in full view. You don't need validation. You don't need permission, and you certainly don't need to apologize for becoming who you truly are. Aries, your time is now. You've walked through the long night. You've let go of the old. You've lost those who couldn't stay. You've sat quietly in the in-between and didn't run. And because of all that, you deserve to step into your brightest light. No more living by others' expectations. No more shrinking to fit the mold. No more staying silent while your dreams scream for air inside. You're done performing, done people-pleasing, done walking on eggshells. From here on, you live for your truth, and know your truth isn't perfect. It's marked with scars, pain, and lonely nights no one ever saw, but it's real, and it's radiant enough to light the rest of your life. You don't have to shout. You don't have to convince the world you've changed. Your presence will speak for itself. When you truly become yourself, you don't have to chase love or approval. Those who are meant to see you will. Those meant to understand you will. Those meant to walk beside you will find their way. And those who overlooked you in the dark, they'll have no choice but to look again when you step into the light, not because you need to prove anything, but because real light can't be ignored. Aries, this is your return, not as someone who barely survived the storm, but as a soul reborn from the fire, whole and proud. I know not everyone will be ready to meet this new version of you. Some will leave. Some will try to pull you back into your old costume. Some will say, "You've changed," and you know what? They're right, you have. You no longer ask for permission to be real. You no longer hide what you believe. You no longer stay silent about what you know is right. Now, you step into the light, not to be seen, but to see yourself more clearly than ever before. You're not going back. You're moving forward. No more roles, no more dressing rooms. Just you and Aries, living in the truth of your original self. Thank you, Aries, for having the courage to face the dark and choose the light. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for listening to your soul, even when it meant walking away. I wish you a peaceful departure and a glorious return, where you no longer have to hold it all together. You just have to be you. May you be safe, may you be free, and may you finally come home to yourself.